We continue in page 4 with line 13. The Beliar of the Testaments, Jubilee 120, Ascension of Isaiah, and 2 Corinthians 6:15, full bibliography, W. LaSalle, Falasha Anthology, page 161, note 21, found in WD and T, but not an H. The word perhaps denotes a personage in Psalm 18:5, Maweth. Yeah, there's probably a lot of references to persons with the Psalms and other passages of Scripture that we don't get. Quoted T, MG 240, line 7, 41, line 3. No version takes it thus. Proverbs 17:11, construction MH, Segal, page 157. Well, sometimes it's none of the scholars have considered that to be the case, or no manuscript that he knows of says that. Sometimes there's some other. Jubilee 49:2, the powers of Mastema were let loose. Tefanawa, to slay. The same phrase, D13, MH, Al Yedda 14, Isaiah 24:17, the standing expression in H, not found elsewhere in Z. 15, not in the extent, T. Targum Leviticus, a net of the spirit of anger in the Armenian, the spirit of deceit, i.e. Beliar, is mentioned in Targum Daniel 2:4. Targum's like ancient translations, right? So retranslated into the Common Era language, sort of a period between Aramaic and Hebrew, right? The same enumeration, Jubilee 7:21, Psalm of Solomon 8:10-13. See also Ephraim 5:5. Are there Targums that predate complete manuscripts of Tanakh itself? Ezra 14:5 with verse 16, quoted B, Dushim 40a, to show that idolatry is seductive, and literally has put them before them. 17, a conscious archaism. D6:2, the writer slips into MH, Mammon. 18, infinite, I'm not sure what that stands for. If Schechter, often used with the force of MH, the verbal noun, as often in D. Ezra 5:11, 23:38, H 12:8, Jubilees 30:15-16. Psalm of Solomon 2:3 suggests that defilement of the sacrifices, not of the building, is meant. See also 11:20. And i.e. Zoh, GK, section 34b, note Segal, page 41, MH construct, Segal, page 208. And we've gone over what these abbreviations are for. It's just kind of too much to remember just to read a book. CFT, MG244, line 9, to be caught in their net. I mean, if someone was to memorize this text, you might do that, but a lacuna here is suggested by the abrupt change of subject. in the absence of a verb. Ezra 13:10, Hosea 5:11, 70 PTG translated as if shall, vanity, V as if Zawaa Testament, but this is probably Jerome's misreading of Zoah, dirt, in Exodus 32:25, and Sia Tug P translation, Li Shemzah, in the name of dirt, or is it TZ? See, if they gave me characters like that, I could read it. I.e., they read Lechmetsu. Okay, yeah, it is a TZ. Like Samuel, where, however, it is understood as Le Shemetsu. See Samuel Tug, and rendered Tsao, like Jerome's source in Hosea 5:11, but they could only do so if Zao was for them a personage. 20. Micah 2:6, as rendered by all versions except the C. However much they differ, all translations, a cognate object construction, MT and C, do ye not preach, they shall preach. The second case follows 5:7, and thus only Zenith is discussed, and 5:6-7 is added parenthetically. Some people might say that the Zenith of the Book of Mormon would be a Zenith. Or translate, they are caught in 2 of the 3 nets, namely in whoredom, continued by defiling the sanctuary, 5:6, but then 5:7 hangs in the air, and our passage contradicts H, where the opponents are repeatedly accused of robbing the sanctuary as well as their fellow Jews. See 6:15-17, and the note on 8:4. In contrast to Philo, the rabbis take Zonah of Leviticus 21:7 as a woman who has broken the incest laws. See Belkin, Philo, and Oral Law, page 236. Our sect thus sides with the rabbis, particularly on Ginsburg's view, page 28, that our law is really derived by combination of Leviticus 18:18 with 18:16 by Rekub, see 5:10, thus placing it among the incest laws, while Genesis 1:27 is adduced as makta, and there's midrashic support. 21. Leviticus 18:18, in her lifetime. This supports Ginsburg's view, adduced in the preceding note, as well as his opinion that this statement forbids polygamy, not divorce, as Schechter and others thought. Divorce is actually mentioned as permitted in 13:17. See 12:15. Perhaps this is nothing but a translation of phusis, very important in the order of 9 angles, the nous and the phusis. Genesis 1:27, quoted by Matthew 19:4. Is it Micah? Or is it Malachi? No, maybe they'd use it. 10:6. The 2 words, especially in MH, are used for a man, a woman. Targum Jerusalem, as a male and his mate, Zog, he created them. And biologically, we kind of start with a female base, and hormones and genetics built upon that. Okay, so we're in page 5 now. Line 1, C22, Genesis 7:9. Well, he has a section symbol, so maybe it's around that verse. Well, that's important thinking about any reference, right? Deuteronomy 17:15, Melech, C7:20, and when we don't have a source listed, we're talking about this same book. 2, Deuteronomy 17:17, a similar excuse for Reuben, Jubilees 33:16, for Boaz, Ruth, R8:1, for the rabbis, David is an expert, Halkist, example, Beberakoth, for A, over whom carnal passions held no sway, B, Baba Bathra 17a. Well, there's certainly temptations at times if they point directions that they're not, that aren't fruitful, or you don't know what to do that would be fruitful at the time. But, you shouldn't let them decide, like so many people decide right and wrong by just, I have the desire, so it must be the right thing. And it's like, you could have desired anything. Line 4, books were hidden in jars by Joshua. Assyrian, maybe? S. Moses 1:17. But it is not said that these were the books of the law. The copyist did not delete the word because he found it thus in his source, but added the correct spelling. Another case, 7:17, the spelling without H is found in Palestinian sources. Jubilee 2:13. MT, La, Baal, La, Ashtaroth. Our text confirms Moore's emendation, La, Ashtaroth. For the, okay, what's the spelling? I've gone over this in a program, but some of it's related to starving, and basically it's Ishtar, but or ASTR, as we find a book of the Bible named after it, but and there's Asherah, which is possibly referring to something else, but in some mythologies it's the same entity. So active or passive, as in 8:3, 1935, D, 9:2, see the note on line 7, 5, same mistake, also at the beginning of a line, 7:12, Hilkiah, the Zadokite, see Zinberg, page 28's note, less likely the ancestor of the Zadokite line in Solomon's time. Like the scribe in the Codex of Alexandria, our author may have thought the book of 2 Kings 22:8 to have been the original book of the law. A literalist reading of 2 Kings 23:22 to 23 implies ignorance of ritual in David's time. Is this perhaps the reason why Josephus, Antiquities 9:7, amidst the whole episode of the recovered book at Both 4:17, the same word D7:3 perhaps read Wayo Overu, Sisir 47:11 of David? The Lord removed He'ever Aphila, 2 Samuel 12:13, his transgressions. MH use, see also 11 18, Rab in Peshaboth, 56a. If you examine David, you will find nothing against him except the matter of Uriah. Note that the rabbis, too, find justification for David's action with Bathsheba. Ginsburg Legends 403. A lot of adultery and stuff has probably happened because of that, but let's remember that some of the things said about prophets in the Bible weren't in the older versions of the stories. 6, perhaps Nehemiah 5:10. The meaning is found in medieval Hebrew. Sefer Deuteronomy 26, where the term apaka is used of it. And we have a possible gloss. See note 2 on 420. 7, abbreviation, see 2.6 and so on. Hif'il for passive, nif'al as in 7.1, 8.1, D6.14, maybe nif, 9.5, 9.16, and so on, for the term of 70, ephedros for MT, nada, especially the separation of blood. Well, it makes sense that ephedra is something that we have in our bodies, and ephedra is something you get in a plant, and Psalm of Solomon 8:13, Leviticus 15:19, but here apparently of irregular flux in M. Horiyath 1:3. Thus given as an example of a denial of rabbinic teaching, it is thought by some modern scholars to be a Sadducee opinion. A similar accusation in Psalm of Solomon 8:13. 8, the inverse error of 16:2, the second case of zenith, C4:20, forbidden by the Samaritans, Phalashas, Karaites in the 12th century. Sefer Chassidim 282. Sometimes the fundamentalist will be, come to different, opinions than the conservatives. And they'll sometimes notice things that they won't because they're going straight to the text. They don't have to go through interpretations to get there. A case of it among the priests in the early 2nd century BCE, Josephus' Antiquities 12:4-6, 9, Leviticus 18:13, MT, thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of. The interpretation in line 10 is based on MT, apparently an instance of euphemistic rendering, Kenue, of incest laws, a practice branded as heretical, and Megillah 4:9, with Samuel 70 MT, the manuscript MT adds Ke. 11, syntactically difficult, but if there is a lacuna, what did it contain? This is the Rekub theory, later propounded by Anan of the 8th century. And we see also 7:4, 12:11, also the Hebrew, T. Naft. Yeah, there's just pages of abbreviations. It'd be better if they just, made the notes a little longer. Be easier, right? 10:9 and T. Targum Asher 2:7. And so we're going to cross over, and later in the text we're going to see that we're already starting to see it. Is this page 8, or is this, so do we see other numbers that indicate D4:11, 12, CT MG 245, line 13, also Enoch 104:9, C 20:11, Isaiah 32:6, 13, Isaiah 50:11, with DS Isaiah A, MT, all of you, DS, is it, I think it's supposed to be Isaiah, but IS, B, 70P, MT, omits, with P harmonized with the end of the clause, MT, me, Ezra, Isaiah 59, 5 and 6, 14 with DS, Isaiah A, 70, MT singular, 15, MH, Kol, Ha, Marba, the more one. The verb similarly used H55 MS, like a hill, his house shall be laid waste. For the whole concept, Enoch 97:4, so too Anan, 8th century, declares him who associates with an excommunicated priest to be equally guilty. Nimoy, page 14, section 7. Well, there's a difference with some of that, right? Is that you don't have to approve of everything with that a person believes or does in a real world sense to interact with him. You can interact with him on, how you interact with him. So you have 3:19 for the spelling, 1:9:16, Isaiah 27:11, 17, Deuteronomy 32:28a, with the Sin and Vatican manuscript. MT adds ke, an obvious variant reading as MT would fit better, replaces MT and. For meaning, see numbers 6:11, MT, Tavuna, same meaning, 1:14 to 8, and so on, 18. Always in Z, used for actions done at God's command, hence no comparison with Father of Lights, equals God, James 1:17, Apocalypse of Moses, 36, for Prince, Angel, see 16:5, and also D3:20, and we see 1:11 in Jubilees, 48:9, Prince Mastema merely assists the Egyptian sorcerers. We, Diabalu, okay. The different O's and stuff sometimes throws me off. I try to correct as soon as possible if I ever make a mistake like that. But addressed to the sorcerer, Acts 13:10. $19 in Menachoth, 85a, Yohanna Memra, 2 Timothy 3:8, Yanhas Kai Mam Brahs. The Midrash makes them Balaam's sons, Ginsburg Legends 644. A similar use of the story in Clement Reckon. I want to say recognize, but 356, Teicher, JJS, 243, corresponds exactly to the Arabic al-Ula, but strange in Hebrew, perhaps influenced by To, Proton. Moses is called the first Redeemer, Ruth R5:6. Well, see Redeemer and World Savior and all that stuff in some context is not the same thing as the Mithraic thing. It's the example has been brought back, and that example liberates us, right? Art helps establish a righteousness, a righteous order that, again, liberates, but not of the same thing as. But it was important that that tonic included mention of how there's no Lord beside, no Savior, no whatever. So any worldly position, it's by permission, and there's no share in divinity. The language isn't as precise as Arabic, but people still got the point. 20 and H, but not in Mishnah, are Tosefta, an anagram of Mata'ath 1:7. I'm not sure whether we're changing Theth for Tau or whatever. So if not having the original language letters, see if MH, desolation of the temple, Kilayim 4:8-29, employed as an era, B. Apodah Zra 9b by Rabbi Chanina of the early 3rd century. And the editing of the New Testament manuscript sort of slowed down considerably at that time. And same thing with side manuscripts. The production of such sort of, alternative gospels and alternative letters and that sort of stuff. Some of them are more authentic, but, it seemed that the pseudo-epigraphical works that are side books to what was included in the Bible kind of was coming to an end at that time as well. Hosea 5:10, also quoted in 1915, Jeremiah 23:13-21, Ezra 19:7, Deuteronomy 13:6, 12:3, and page 6, line 1, C2:6, 5:1-3, as he commanded by the hand of Moses and by the hand of all his servants, the prophets. See, the prophets don't do their own will. They're supposed to, that's why you can't have somebody that just wills themselves into their position, right? 2:12, 7:17, and Enoch 108:6. CT, MG2, 45, line 6, they came to seek thee from the mouth of false prophets. And 2, Leviticus 26:45, see also 1:4, and with the Vulgate, MT adds Lahem, Deuteronomy 1:13, midrashically, expanded to justify the sect's arrangement of courts and councils, 5:5, D 8:1, kind of like what you see in the Doctrine and Covenants, but that's not midrashically. That's supposed to be in the, according to revelation of some sort, or at least thought. The school of the prophets was called. What were, I guess methods were taught, and whichever entity was supposed to have answered. But it's the same principle, just perhaps in a different context, or at least a different context is claimed. And you don't have to necessarily interpret as people do if they claim an experience to say that, well, maybe you did have an experience, but it might not have been what they said it was, or it may not have, be in the direction, right? The verse alluded to in James 3:13, Doctrine and Covenants from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It may have been currently used by sectarians as it is made the subject of a question by one Arius to R. Joseph, folio 150, and is answered in the simplest way, typical for replies to Gnostics. Leading question, Sifra, Deuteronomy 13, and I'm going to try to make this more pages than I've divided this into, so if I can make it to more than 12 pages, perhaps, line 3, perhaps Deuteronomy 30:12, C3:3, Numbers 21:18 follows MT against Samuel 70, 4, C4:2, 6, Num R19, some version of Numbers, right? 19:15, and Tanchuma edited Buber, Chukoth 48, through the merit of the patriarchs who were called princes in the Zohar, 3 out of 50a, more correctly, nobles, as the idea is based on Psalm 47:10. This connexion is perhaps alluded to in 70, rendering of Numbers 21:18, by the plural, ethnon, perhaps the root, sre, which the ancient versions render to be strong, be high, was by our author taken to mean to apply oneself to a thing, as does the Arabic shara. Now, the tradition of the splitting between the letters, the alphabetic way of looking at it, rather than the phonetic way, may not match up to what could have been, and some of the interpretations obviously would have, changed over time as that was done. The same sense as Numbers 23:20, C 20:33, D 5:15, read Yeshiv 6:25, see also the Talmudic, Aramaic, Athev, refute by reference to a higher authority, 7, D 2:9, may there not be peace to thee in the mouth of all who hold fast to the ways of the forefathers, TMG 2:36, lines 14 to 15, they made me an object of shame and contempt in the mouth of, see the curious use of mouth in T, Benjamin, 11, 2 to 3, in BH, also commander, leader, but this meaning is excluded by the Isaiah quotation. Now, there's different words for leader. It's like a Nazi and a Nashi and some others. This also excludes the rendering lawgiver, which in any case seems not to be attested for Joseph Albo, 1380 to 1444. Note the word is used in another sense in line 9. See also 7:18 for searching, and the law, see D 5:11 and 6:7. 8:15, also Jubilees 23:26, and the principle ascribed to Anan, search thoroughly in the law. Because there's a lot more answers to some things than people realize. 8, Isaiah 54:16, the last word spelled as in DS, Isaiah A, where the first scribe also omitted, and as here. The quotation is used as here, though quite contrary to its original meaning. See also Acts 9:15 of Paul, Mechilta, Rabbi Ishmael, R is for rabbi, right? Bo Proem, edited by Horvitz, and I Rabin, page 1, line 4 of Moses. See Apocalypse of Moses 16, the snake, and T Targum Naphtali, maybe 8:6, where the wicked man is the devil's own tool. Line 9, CH 7:13, hence staffs, ordinances, chukim, 10, C 1012, 4-2, in line 14, harsha, so also H5-7 in other passages, harsha. The form here resembles nagya, H91, D3, 14 and 23, 4-12. In the Midrash, the Roman Empire is often called Malkuth Harisha. Example, Genesis R2-4 and W, MG 119, line 7. The opponent forces are collectively called Harisha. See also Harisha in some text forms of the 18th benedictions, 12th benediction for Oseh, Risha, in other forms, hence En Ta'is, Himerais, Tone, Amar Tolun, Enoch 22:12, 82, same meaning, 31:22, CD 6:14, Hosea 10:12 for the texts of 1:11, MT shall come, but shall be revealed in Tug and 2020. That's, I think, the goal of where we're going to get at today. I'm not sure if we're going to get to that, but 11, so translated by PV. See also 14, 18, and 19. After his resurrection, the T of R will solve all outstanding halakhic problems, as the rabbis believed of Elijah, the precursor of the Messiah. Well, there's different messiahs in Tanakh, so perhaps a messiah, then a messiah, then Me Eduyath 8:7, Bekoroth 24a, C21. The same view may underlie 1 Maccabees 14:41. It's interesting that Judaism and what we call Hinduism started with war chronicles. There was religion before that, but Judaism more formally started with the books of Maccabees. And 4:46, where prophatas approximately means teacher, as in 1 Corinthians 12:28, 14:29, and so on. See also 7:17 and D9:11, where a prophet appears in a context where we would expect the T of R and pistos, possibly, tzaddik, as in 70, Job 17:9. A similar idea using the same verse, also in the Karaite Daniel al-Khamisi, Nemoy, page 34. The Messiah will teach which birds may be eaten. Well, you'd expect them to know some basic rules of religion. 12, supply perhaps not to, walk in the stubbornness of their heart. The reference here is to the oath of admission, 16:4, D11, the same train of thought, 8:4, 16:5, see that, altered by the copyist to make sense after the lacuna, C4:2, 13, Malachi 1:10, with PVMT has GAM also. And let's see here, let's make sure you see the pages again of what we're going to be talking about. With with 70 PV MT Wayiskor, with P Tug read Delatha MT Delathaim. C14, Nifal. C213. The word seems here to have the special nuance, the detailed manner in which a general prescription is to be applied, as in B. Sanhedrin 87a by Rabbi Judah, folio 150. The meaning commentary is medieval. In our literature, it would be Pesher 414. C.T. Benjamin 10.5. Some medieval Jewish mystics believed the law would receive a different meaning in Messianic times. See Sholem, Major Trends in Jewish Mysticism, 2nd edition, page 175. We've read that book on the channel. The phraseology seems to exclude the supposition that the sect believed the entire law as such would cease to be applicable, though this view is put forward authoritatively from the Academy of Elijah in B. Sanhedrin 97a and by Rabbi Simeon B. Eliezer of the 2nd century, the Common Era. B. Shabbath 151b, L. Bach in JJS 3, 1952, 106, who ascribes this view also to Paul, but they certainly did not. Like Samuel, 3rd century, the Common Era. B. Shib believe the Messianic coming to be a mere political event. Well, when was being the anointed one ever merely political? But, they did do rituals to set up the king, right? C.D. 5.1, from the Congregation of the Men of Injustice, 5.10, Jubilees 22.16, Psalm of Solomon 2.38. The verb means political succession in the quotation from an old historical work, which found its way into B. Kedoshin 66a 15, also 13.14, D. 9.16, 10.19, Jubilees 10.3, those drowned in the flood, 15.26, uncircumcised Jews are heathen, John 17.12, Judas, 2 Thessalonians 2.3, Antichrist. Oh, the people of perdition and all that, yeah. Event Nicodemus 20. Satan, pit, is the beach, meaning especially. Is it supposed to be Ezra or Ezekiel? 28.8. Because an extra meaning would let right. Because I'm not sure Ezra has that many chapters. See also 14.2. It lies behind the mistranslation. Apolaia, see note 3 in a magical text. Praesendans Papyrus, Greek magical for 1247. Well, that's a more detailed manuscript than the thing I brought up, right? See Tumnat SV, the phrase would be antonym to Ben Ha-Olam, Ha-Ba, son of the world to come. See Shabbath, 153a, based on the Greek rendering of Apolaia and NT and so on the Latin of Jubilees 1526 and the Eth of Jubilees 10.3. It would be a noun derived from Hishchith. See loss, damage in the papyri, supported by the pun in 15.7, and the Eth translation of Musena, Jubilees 1526 for Yalda Pesha, Isaiah 57:4. 70 has Tekna Apelias in the Testament of Reuben. 3:5, the Testament of Judah, 17:2. This gives the best sense for Apeliah in the text, which is thus a mechanical mistranslation. The word would be a noun from Nishchath. Actually, all three senses may have been present simultaneously in the term. See the double sense of perditus and the interpretation of Leviticus 22, 2-3. Is that supposed to just tell us, the paragraph we're looking at? You should look at this in more detail. 16, of this manuscript, 13-16. 16, the same as in 4:17. Similar mistake. D 9:20, where read will hasir for Walawa Hasser, apparently due to the use of an abbreviation for low. Isaiah 10:2, MT adds the judgment of. MT has my people. One of those most famous passages. Nechum, one Nechmu, Ami, regret and repent, and you be my people, rather than just comfort the people regardless of who they are. That's how people tend to interpret that nowadays. But another thing is, like, if you quote something and tell people it supports this, half the time people are going to fall for it. Bible commentators belong. Why do you think we have so many churches? Somebody says, "Oh, I found a verse that supports this. Join my church, and we're going to follow something that other people aren't following." And I mean, whether it's real or not, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. 17, MT, plunder, conflation with Psalm 94:6. Note that R. Eliezer, folio 150, B. Makhath 10a explains the same verb in Hosea 6:9 as a reference to priestly acts of greed. C. 16:14, Ezra 22:26 with transpositions are conflated with Leviticus 11:47, 10:10, quoted in the same form as 12:19-20, MT and 70 without article, 18, ditto. This most probably refers to the festival calendar. That the sect differed in this respect from other Jews is proved by D 10:5, H 11:6-8, C Talmud Biblica 32, 1951, page 552-63, and the attachment to the Book of Jubilees, C 16:3. Well, the Bible does in itself seem to have some conflictions, and so were they going to interpret through the Babylonian traditions, or how are they going to interpret how to run their calendar, right? I mean, it even took on names from a foreign culture. The words for the holidays, which indicate if those terms picked Babylonian influence and the stuff before didn't have that. Anyways, 19, H 11:8, Ha Kippurim in Ezra 9:5, and MH Ta Aneth is used of fast days other than the Day of Atonement. The term Nahstaya for the latter, Philo Spec Leg 2, 193, and so on. Josephus Antiquities 17:6-4, Acts 27:9, probably Psalm of Solomon 3:9 may translate either this or thumb, as in 70. Note that Z agrees with MH against all ancient versions, which take T and Ezra as affliction. In H, 11:3-8, 2 festivals and fast day appear together. In Islam, there's a clear differentiation between observance and festival, right? Ramadan's a month of observance, just like the Bible, but it's not a festival per se. In H, 11:3-8, 2 the festival. Okay, MH form, Segal, section 198, and MH meaning to arrive at a conclusion, hold a legal opinion. And we see also 2:2, and for we have Jeremiah 31:30, see 8:21, 20:12, Luke 22:20, and so on. Line 20, in this general sense, already 2nd Chronicles chapters 30 and 35, Leviticus 19:18, also quoted Matthew 19:19, and so on. From here, 7:2, the list is similar to Jubilees 22-3. MT has le, ra'ahu, similar confusion, 7:2, 8:6, 9:8, 16:15, and so on. The two terms are constantly confused in 70. 21, Ezra 16:49, quoted in the same form as 14:14, with PMT Yad, perhaps influenced by the author's favorite Hachezek Be, hold fast to. People make similar points with, like, the Joseph Smith thing. He says exceedingly, and it came to pass too much. And they even changed the Book of Mormon because they were like, oh, people are making fun of this too much. We need to reduce some of them that aren't necessary, right? Small type words found only in manuscript B. Okay, let's see, we have, well, you'll see the differences when you have, okay, this is this page and, page 9 in this manuscript and all that. So see the introduction. So page 7, line 1, C8:6, Isaiah 58:7, Hef-il for Nifal 5:7. The same confusion with 8:5, the Latin text of Jubilees 25, Psalm of Solomon 2:13, but perhaps the manuscript is right here. If so, translated women who had before been married incestuously 4:20, and there were cultures that did that, yeah. Thus, as in 6:15, the revisions of Leviticus 22-3, so here those of Leviticus 21:7 are made applicable to all Israelites, not merely to priests. While sometimes being led captive and all that other stuff, the family lineages ended up being mixed and people didn't know, and they figured it out. It's like, what are we going to do about this? And nowadays, it's a lot more common, people go to, well, I mean, it's not terribly common, but people go to get married and they find out that they're related, even at the point of being siblings. Second line, Leviticus 19:17-18, also quoted in Matthew 18:15. MT Amitheka, C 6:20, but here thy brother occurs in the same verse, and as explained 9:4, line 3, explanatory addition, keeping rancor as in Bet-Yoma 23a, specified until the next day, and see 5:7, 11:20, Leviticus 11:43, and by eating forbidden food 12:11, and verse 4, is that supposed to be plural? Or also 5:11, empty your souls. This meaning is not attested elsewhere, but is possibly also to be understood in 12:19. 5, the laws, 8:2, in Psalm 84:12. All ancient versions take tamim as a noun. 15:2, only tug, ak, sia, quinta as perfection. 70 PV as sinless, as a name of the sect. Aloth, Ansha, Tamim, Ha, Kurdesh. 22, 5, and 7. It's important to kind of know what people's own things, because calling them Essenes when they call themselves sometimes things are kind of, verse 2, 5, and 7 of 20, which D 8:20, abbreviated D 8:23, and 3, Yasura, verbal noun of Pe'el, Segal, page 109. See also D 3:1, read D 6:26, the same meaning, Syriac 40:29. See also Psalm 16:7, and the Kethiv of Jeremiah 17:13. See the further Yalon, Kira'ath, Sefer 28, 1951, 69, and Amh, the word always plural, means more narrowly and in keeping with the BH usage of the verb, sufferings inflicted as divine punishment. The same phrase, 10:6. 5, Psalm, note 5, on the same line, Psalm 89, 29b to 30a, quoted 14:1. Ibn Ezra 2 takes 30a as the implication. Ta'am of 29b, beginning of the manuscript B, page 19. Okay, so we are in B. MT, ne, emaneth, the plural, also in 14:1, where one cannot, as one might do here, explain it as due to the attraction of a plural noun. Line 6, pe'el or hif'il. In principle, the verb might. Pe'el, right? The verb might also be qal, with the representing of the subject. The suffix representing the subject. For them to live. Cases of this occur in Targums. It helps if it's a TR, right? See Ecclesiastes 5:7 and Peyut for the sense of 3:20, the usual medieval abbreviation for Kathav. Here perhaps for Ka Asher, Kathuv, see line 19, and Deuteronomy 7:9, also quoted 20 verses 20, lines 22 and 23, Jubilees 23:31, with Qara and versions. The purpose of the linear is obscure. 6a, Christian communities in the pre-Islamic Arabia were called Parambala'i and Parembala'i. Okay, now pre-Islamic is not really quite the term, but before the Quran was revealed. In the Aramaic fragment of the Testament of Levi, twice corresponding to taxis in the Greek text, see the Babylonian Talmud. Aramaic sirka, custom, mh, sirek, imitation, apparently cognate with the Ethiopic sirak line in one of Dillman's quotations, way, sakatre, sirek, Entrave, BH, Serok, string. And we see MH, Derak, Eretz, one meaning of which is marital relations, because, we have the reference to the earth. There's children, but there's other things that are worldly that are important to that, but I forget what Dirk means. 7, see Testament of Joseph. 4:5, we shall walk in the law of thy God. 8, see 16:7, if the manuscript reading is retained, translates teachings. In this case, the next two words are in an explanatory gloss. And okay, let me show here what we're going to talk about. Small type equals words found only in manuscript B. Underlined words, those found only in manuscript A. Numbers 30:17. 9MT has his daughter, perhaps our author read, with 70 except G and the same cursives, a daughter, but which could easily be misread as here, restored after 8:2, assuming haplography. Psalm 94:2, also quoted D8:6-7, MT D reads as here, hence this is a real variant reading, not just some linguistic thing or a mistake, right? Okay. Line 10, Schechter prints the text of A and B here as parallel versions. Charles saw that at least lines 12-20 must originally have formed part of the common text. Actually, the passage peculiar to A fits easily before that peculiar to B. The introductory phrase in line 10 demands the text of A as its continuation. See also the note on line 20A. The Zechariah quotation 20A illustrates the last phrase of Numbers 24:17, preserved in A 20-20A. These in 21 interprets the poor of the flock, B 20B-20C. 11, Isaiah 7:17, also quoted 14:1. MT, the Lord will bring, change to avoid the divine name. Other cases 3:8-11, 11:18-21, 15:3, 9:5, and so on. The same mistake, 5:5, correctly 14:1. With P, so commenting line 12 there, 14:1, MT, le miyom. The syntax as well as the homiletic use, made use of the verse, indicates that our author did not read after this the king of Assyria, though appearing in all versions, CDS Isaiah A. These words are now generally regarded as a gloss. 13, Sar is explained twice, once literally, Hebreb, the second time by a play on the Sar ruler, C6:6, perhaps inspired by the implication of superiority in Me'al, C4:11, Psalm 78:62, Daniel 11:32, also used in 3:12, see 1 Maccabees 1:62, 14, Zechariah 6:8, and MT followed by they have eased my spirit, Amos 5:26-27, also quoted to the same extent, Acts 7:43. from verse 27a, MT, and ye shall carry. 15 must be supplied as it is interpreted. The and also in 70, also Rashi takes the star as a separate idol. MT, me, hala'a, le, from beyond. This appears to be a genuine variant reading. Had it been a midrashic substitution, then the author would surely have retained the le, which supported his interpretation. Thus, 70 PV translating midrashically. 16 Amos 9:11 also quoted Acts 15:16. Thus Acts Kai Anoi Kadam Hasso MT, on that day I shall re-erect 70 Anastaso. A common textual tradition strongly suggests itself, since MT would actually have supported the exegesis here offered. 17. The lacuna contain the interpretation of images, Hedvigberg and King in the Testament of Solomon 8:14, as Charles saw. Tapas, translated Psalm, stands for Aletz, intercessor, prophet. This may well derive from a lost midrash on our passage. I would suggest restoring the king is the prince of all the congregation. Line 20, for whom a Torah had to be written. Deuteronomy 17:18. The intercessors are those that instruct. 13:7. The assembly. Hamok, Huwa, Nashya, Bol, Hada, Wahatz, Lamim. And, the Nashi is a more positive sense, or neutral sense at the very least, as compared to the Nazi. Nazi wasn't in a good sense here. I can't think of, but anyways, it's an ancient word. It has nothing to do with the NSDAP. Hamlitzim, Mushkili, Hakho. This provides an attractive parallelism. King is sect's leader. His tabernacle is the Torah. Images equals sect teachers. Their pedestals equal the prophets. The second series becomes even more apposite if our surmise that prophatas meant for our sect teacher, as it did in the early church. See note on 6:11 is accepted. Well, it's supposed to be the spiritually gifted and all that, but a lot of mystical orders, you're an acolyte and you're a priest and then you're a prophet, and it just didn't mean what it means, the scripture. And that's why you have to, it's like, what do you mean by God? What do you mean by prophet? What do you mean by this, that, and the other? It's like, well, isn't it important to make some of that clear, right? So underlined words, those found only in manuscript A. Small type words found only in manuscript B. And this is the original reading, Ginsburg 47. Finding it in his model, the copyist did not delete it, but added the correct version. C 5:4. Our midrash was suggested as an emendation in MT by Ewald and W.R. Smith. 18. Second Chronicles 36:16, illusion. Matthew 23:31. In the Testament of Leviticus 16:2, it appears as a quotation from the book of Enoch with PMT, his, God's words. C 6:7-19, perhaps. 2 Kings 8:7, thus equating the searcher of the law with Elisha. C 8:20. C line 6. This phrase has the same elements as the Talmud, ke, the kethev, but has no MH parallel. Paragraph numbers 24:17 referred to Jesus, Revelation 22:16, and so on. Revelation 22, you end up calling Jesus Lucifer. There's two other passages. Daniel would be called Lucifer. Lucifer isn't, it's the light bringer. It's not necessarily, it's the devil. That was because people's like, oh, you think you're Lucifer, huh? And then it, changed cultural meaning. Bar Kozeba by Rabbi Akiba, Tanith 4267D. Euseb, History, Ecclesiastes 4:6. Dusithius, Sharastana 170. The Messiah, Targums, Testament of Levi 18:3, Testament of Judah 24:1, Rabbis of the 2nd century, Jatan 50:100. CP Risha Tug Jer Parik Wa Shalit. See Omar's position as Farouk, which is Parik by the side of Muhammad. A lot of secondary titles for people. 20, Muhammad the Prophet, because it was Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. And Hassan and Hussein. But things were split after Ali because the people who killed Ali and Uthman 20, note that in 5:1, Nasi stands for the Melech of Deuteronomy 17:15. Bar Kozeba is called on his coins Nasi Yisrael, and Bar Kozeba. Some of the would translate. About 70. None of the New Testament texts were written until after the destruction, and some of the claims to lineage couldn't be checked out, and there's other issues about some of the what they call the New Testament claims, and why wasn't it until after this? And isn't there issues with what you say about the temple destruction and all that stuff? C 114, because the Jews rose to power in the Maccabees and the Bar Kokhba revolt, and Son of the Star, Kalbeb, Jubilees 22:12 with reference to Jacob. MT where R agrees with MT against Sam. The rendering of V, Perktet, is chosen here. Because of all versions, it is the one least likely to be pure guesswork. Per Cutiet. It fits smite in line 20b, 20a, mt, omits f. The existence of a lacuna in B is proved by the fact that Biyad elsewhere follows Amar 21a, 321, 413, 1914, Artewa D13 of Z 522, but never Kathav, though Kathav al Yav Neve'echa occurs in the Kedusha to the 18th benedictions, authorized prayer book, page 45. There is no evidence that the phrase is old. Al Bogen der Jud Gottesdienst, page 61. Zechariah 13:7 also quoted Matthew 26:31. 14:27, where Jesus is the shepherd. Ibn Ezra refers this to events after the death of Messiah ben Joseph, the precursor Messiah. Thus, the shepherd here may be the teacher of righteousness for the Karaite Moses. Oh, it's supposed to be with a Q. Karaite. Karia, maybe. I don't think it is the right. Maybe it's a hey at the end instead of. Anyways, well, in Arabic, some of those. If you continue, you pronounce the T. If you don't, it's an H. Moses, Dareh, 12th to 13th century. The passage refers to Messiah. See Nimoy, page 142. See also Nimoy, page 51, section 13. 20b, MT, the Lord, 20c, so 70p are governors. TG, perhaps understood as small men with 75, Zechariah 11:11. The exegesis lies in the inversion and agrees with and so on against 70 are do his will to C 2015 note 1 and the needy H 12:6. The identification of poor and pious is typical for Solomon and re-echoed by Happionoi if van der Ploeg Adet student. I'm not sure what the render says. 7 1950 268 is right in denying such an equation for the Old Testament. It's not appropriate to call things Old Testament and New Testament. I mean, it's a doctrinal thing, but you know what I mean. It is all the more significant that it is found in these three places. 21 from here to 8:1, telescoped into A, making one visitation out of the two. C line 9, C hesitating spirit, D 8:12, C 3:3, 21A, C 21, 12:23, the plural by mistake, D 9:11, the ungrammatical Har-Shon, a misunderstood abbreviation is in A, the sole remnant of the full text, for the sense, C 112, note 1, 21b. Is it? I don't know if it's supposed to be Ezra or Ezekiel. 9:4 with 70 ek the tug mt a sign. The spelling is often found in medieval manuscripts. It is akin to the phenomenon in 2:12 note 4. MT adds the men who and has the article in both adjectives. Okay, we'll be getting into page 8 or 19. Underlined words, those found only in manuscript A. Small type words found only in manuscript B. 1, C 20, 10 to 11 for the reading of A. C 5:7 C 117, Leviticus 26:25 for B, C 10:4, D 5:1, 2, 1 Leviticus 26:46, Numbers 30:17, Deuteronomy 12:1 for the syntax of 10:13, note 2, the medieval Hebrew usage of putting zeh and so on before the noun has nothing to do with this. The text of A is the elusive these, meaning the laws, based on Numbers 35:29, C 70 tauta, and recurs 12:23, 13:3, and often according to A.H. Adel Kurt, Adet Student 5, 1948, 180, might have this meaning already in Micah 2:6. It certainly has it in Peri, to tone against Al, the laws, Psalm of Solomon 8:11, on which see 16:9's note. In view of 7:21b, this is to be taken as a reference to the 6 men of Ezra 9:2 who were present as slaying the sinners in verse 8. The Palestinian Rabbi Acha, full 300 of the Common Era, calls them angels of destruction. C 2:6, B Shabbat 55a. The powers of Mastema punish the Egyptians, Jubilees 49:2. 3 perhaps shall visit the earth. C 7:9. Hosea 5:10a. In MT with Samek, Sedea, as quoted by David Kimche, refers this to violation of the laws. C 116. 5:20. Yeah, it's important when you have a secondhand quote to say that it's a secondhand quote. Hosea 5:10b, the text of B is perhaps the result of a copyist correction. All versions take this clause as consecutive. MT, my wrath, active for passive. C 5:4. 4. The use of the word D for 6 are read le, and they will be sick incurably. Schechter, perhaps Deuteronomy 13:18 with mum for me'um, mt, me'umma, C. So the character of the community, maybe something I forget. C 16:13, thus obliquely accusing the opponents of unjust gain. See the note on 4:20, 6:15, 17, H 8:10-12. Similar cases of running 2 words together. D 17, 8:19, 10:19. Biblical instances of delit, lesun, Schreibethachler, page 9, see Segal, page 36, as in BH, the word used in a good sense, as well as of backsliders, 5, 112, H, 8:10, was faithless to ordinances and so on. Our verse shows that the princes of Judah are closer to our sect than the faithless, C 4:11, C 3:11. For the reading of A, which is here out of place, 7:1, 6:15, Leviticus 19:18. Either this is niter, the MH, verbal noun, the PL, which fairly often occurs, of hifel, and so on, rarely of qal, or it is inf, qal with yod for shawa, C milat, D 6, 17 and 18, 8:26, written without Yod 720 and 22, the same in the Talmud manuscript. 6 MT, the children of thy people, see 620 for the concept of see kakia, ice, al, yeah, see kakia, ice, al halus in early Christian writings. Leviticus 19:17, MT, thy brother 6:20. Yeah, some of those early writings have stuff that, there's a sense of it that's not entirely literal, or there's some sort of context that we're supposed to be thinking of. MT, thy brother, see 6:20. Isaiah 58:7, also quoted Sir 38:16, where it is made to enjoin the duty of burial. See also 7:1. So translated by 75, both in its and Sir. In MT, the verb governs its object by min, but the be appears also in Sir with 70 MT omitted. In Sir, the word appears in verse 16a, 7, perhaps. Leviticus 20:14. The only incest crime called zina, well, in Arabic, zina is sex acts outside of marriage. In Abath 2:8 by Hillel, it means unchastity in general, as in the prophets, the Nebiim, that N in Tanakh. Habakkuk 2:5, also used in Sir 31:25. This word also in Sir and MT, only Gever occurs. It is represented by 70 Katoi Amenas, on which see Biblica 32, 566, 33, 366. So the text and commentary of Habakkuk 8:3-11, together 11:15, 12:7, H9:5, and so on, not in D. So I want to make sure to show you real quick what we're going to be getting into. And Deuteronomy 12:8, also quoted 3:6 with 70 PV MT, all it is right. Conflation with Jubilees 17:6 in underlined words, those found only in MSA, small type words, found only in MSB. So 8 CT MG2 45, line 19, who withdrew from thy covenant? See Schechter 2, page 468 to 469. The emendation is made because of absence of article which suggests construct state. See, however, line 16, same use. D 626 as restored. See Proverbs 13:18 as understood by V and the Jewish commoners. Is it commissioner? 9, Psalm 1:1. Okay, we have underlined words, those found in manuscript A, small type words found only in manuscript B. Deuteronomy 32:33, similarly interpreted in Sephra. 10, thus translated by Tugs and P in, is it Ezra or Ezekiel? 29:3, Tenim is Pharaoh. This may have suggested the interpretation Psalm of Solomon 2:29, an alien conqueror, Pompey perhaps. See also T. Asher 7:3. Remember that the book of Revelation was originally Jewish writing from the start of that same first century, and the guy had a plan. He was going to storm the temple and go forward with the rest of his group with his two buddies, and they ended up all three of them getting killed. Two in the Temple Mount, and he was crucified, you could say. Number 3, see also MH Ha Umath, Church Latin Gentis, the Gentiles. 11, what follows appears to be a midrash on Daniel 8:23, and i.e. Sar Hasarim of Daniel 8:25, whom Sadea identifies with the Byzantine emperor, are his governor. 12, Daniel 8:27, we en mevin 70, there was no one to pay heed. Heaven be is typical for Daniel. Outside it, only Proverbs 7:7, and 3 times in Nehemiah and Chronicles. It seems to lie behind Sunion and Tubbs, Namips, studying the law, Testament of Reuben 3:8, C 1:8. Ezra or Ezekiel, like 13:10. Micah 2:11 with transpositions and substitutions. CH 10:9. And this corresponds to a place in MT, Schechter, for which 70 also has a verb. Estase, both read 70, and our text may have read we, shakal, and taken it like the Syriac shakal. Rucha, a wind arose, perhaps Job 28:25, and T. Old Testament of Judah 21:9, Os, only Greek, Kata ides, Theodo prophetai is probably translated of Shokela, Sifoth, Neve'e, Sheker. So it seems that they did mean prophet in a more sense, because it's like, well, pseudo-prophet. Well, that would have been like, I've made my way up the ranks, so I'm a prophet now. It's like, that's not how it works. President? Sure. But C1:14, 4:19, C2:1, 14, the same phrase as H12:6, Deuteronomy 9:5a, 15, MT, their land, conflation with verse 5b, section Deuteronomy 7:8a, attached through the common element, ke, while the letter kaf would be a likeness, something tamed by, a burning, it's that flat hand letter. MT, the love of the Lord, altar to avoid divine name. C7:11, MT, love thee, thy fathers, is taken from latter in the verse. This seems to be an intentional distortion to fit the exegesis 2014-16 paraphrastic genitive. Segal, page 188 to 189. See also 3:4, 11:4, 13:9, and so on. C4:2, Isaiah 59:20, MT in Jacob, lines 4 and 8, 17, perhaps the preceding generation. C1:12, the form is MH, Segal, page 85, note Barth, ZDMG 41, 1887, page 616, Brockelman, Grundres, 616. See also Le Hokin, DS is A4020, perhaps in this case justified by Job 9:19. Yo Idene, where the Tug V will bear witness against me for the sense. See Jubilees 4:22. However, awaken, the unamended reading of A is supported by Psalm of Solomon 3:2, 16:4. And I guess we have time for one more set of pages, and we'll go But let's take a quick look before we say underlined words. Those found only in manuscript A, small type words found only in B. We take a quick look at the abbreviations because there's been some issues trying to figure out what's being said here. And R, Rabba, and Seer, what is... Oh, Symmachus. Yeah, I would have not guessed that. Targum, yeah, I would have guessed that. Okay, 18, C213, paragraph Ezra 13:10, C line 12 and 4, 19, 19, plural, same peculiarity, D523, CZ 13:12, note 1, plural verb after kol and participle, 29, 15:5, and so on. 20, perhaps paragraph Jeremiah 45, 4 and 5, which in isolation can be understood to mean that the judgment is near. These are words to be spoken by Jeremiah to Baruch, hence this is more likely a reference than Baruch. 84:5, Ginsburg, words written by Baruch. 21, perhaps the paragraph 2 Kings 5:26. Indeed, a fitting admonition for those awaiting the coming. It may be true that this is a gloss, Segal. The absence of the text supports this, but just then they must have been well-known quotations, thus more probably from the Old Testament. See 6:5, 7:19, 20, 12, paragraph Jeremiah 31:30, end of manuscript A. 21a, B34, CH23 as restored by Rabinowitz, JBL 69, 1950, 39, paragraph Canticles 4:15. The Targum refers this to the law. See also 3:16, 6:4. See also Revelations 22:1, Jeremiah 17:13, 21b, B35, Ezra 39:9 against false prophets with transpositions. MT shall not be. The substitution seems to have but the purpose of excluding the possibility of taking Sod as secret, as is done by the Targum of Ek. See Hitpael in the same sense, D31, also 5:11, so translated by Sia, the PV, MT, my people. So translated by 75, but probably simply book, no doubt taken as allusion to the sect's registers, 14:4, MT Ikathabu, the pointing probably corresponds to a planet spelling in the original, 3:3, thus the peculiar method of writing active for passive forms, 5:4, and so on, penetrated even into quotations. And we see 2014 and 1 of page 20. This emendation is attractive, line 32 on Yachad. However, a teacher of the community, or Yahad, is probably what we're going to see, right? Yahad. Oh, Yahid, okay. However, teacher of the community does not occur in the scrolls, as in the Testament of Benjamin 9:2. We find monogenus prophato, perhaps translating our term. Well, they could believe that there was supposed to be a prophet after prophet after prophet, right? See the note on 6:11. This should at least make us cautious. But further, see JJS 3, 1952, page 127, which whichever way one reads, the problem remains whether this personage was identical with the teacher of righteousness. If he was, then our passage confirms the implication of 6:10-11, that he was thought of as a precursor of the Messiah only, not as the Messiah himself, though he too would arise again in the Messianic times, just as the rabbis thought of Elijah following Malachi 3:23, C 6:11, in D 9:11, plural, single, Z 7:21, 14:19, 22, C 8:16, C 2:2, C 7:5. For the syntax of 3:2 in BH, the verb has ba. Min appears occasionally in MH. Example B, Makath 33b, 3rd century, the name of the sect, D31, 422, apparently as a name of an organized group. Psalm of Solomon 8:7 continued. Wilhausen, as for the upright, their ways are righteous, which would otherwise be more tautology.